The end of the Bronze Age is one of the most mysterious catastrophes in the history of the ancient world. The great civilizations of the Mediterranean, Mycenae, the Hittite kingdom, Ugarit, and Egypt, grew weak and collapsed, leaving behind chaos and a dark age. But who or what caused this collapse? One of the main suspects remains the Sea Peoples. A mysterious group of migrants and warriors who, according to ancient sources, destroyed cities, defeated armies, and shook the foundations of great powers. But was that really the case? Were they ruthless conquerors or desperate people forced to fight for survival? Today we're in for a real historical investigation. Welcome to the Amazing History Channel, where we talk about the most interesting events of the ancient world and the medieval East. In this video, we'll try to find out what role the Sea Peoples played in the Bronze Age catastrophe. Before we begin, don't forget to support our channel on YouTube or Patreon. Like, subscribe, and leave a kind comment. Now let's go. Let's get to the topic of the episode. Let's start our investigation in Syria. In 1928, a coincidence led to a great discovery. A local peasant, while digging the ground, stumbled upon the entrance to an ancient tomb. This marked the beginning of archaeological excavations that led to traces of a once powerful but forgotten civilization. The French archaeologist Claude Schaeffer, who led the research, soon discovered not only a cemetery but also the ruins of an ancient port city. Among the ruins, archaeologists found clay tablets inscribed with cuneiform in an unknown language. Their deciphering revealed that the discovered city was Ugarit, one of the most important centers of the late Bronze Age. It was a huge city with streets, temples, luxurious homes, and even a library. But what led to its downfall? Why was Ugarit abandoned? Was it destroyed by the Sea Peoples? Clay tablets found by archaeologists make it possible to determine that Ugarit peaked around 1450 BC. The city became wealthy thanks to its strategic location. It stood at the crossroads of major trade routes between the Mediterranean Sea and the Euphrates Valley. Goods from all over the ancient world flowed here. Gold from Sudan, amber from the distant Baltic, lapis lazuli from the mountains of Afghanistan. One of the wealthiest merchants of Ugarit was a man named Rapunul. In his house, archaeologists discovered 450 tablets revealing the secrets of ancient trade. From them, it became known that he supplied pack animals, metals, and did business on a scale that rivaled modern entrepreneurs. But what made Ugarit truly wealthy? Bronze, the metal that defined an entire era. This alloy of copper and tin was the foundation for the production of weapons, tools, and jewelry. Ugarit played a key role in its supply. Copper came from Cyprus and tin from Afghanistan. The city flourished, situated between two superpowers, Egypt and the Hittite kingdom, and made profitable use of its trade network. The city's wealth was reflected in luxurious artifacts, many of which can be seen today in the Louvre. However, Claude Schaeffer noticed something strange. Valuable items were buried, as if they had been hidden in a hurry. Why didn't the residents take their wealth with them? The excavations revealed a terrible scene. The ruins of the city bore traces of a disaster, collapsed buildings, a thick layer of ash. Ugarit was destroyed by fire. Its residents fled in panic, unable to take their treasures with them, and probably couldn't return. But where did they disappear to? Strangely, there are no mentions of refugees in the sources. Ugarit seemed to vanish from the face of the earth in just a few days. Thanks to cuneiform tablets, archaeologists were able to roughly determine the date of the city's destruction. The last known document is dated January 21, 1192 BC. This means that Ugarit fell between 1190 and 1185 BC, and it was not the only one. Between 1200 and the 1150s BC, the great civilizations of the Bronze Age collapsed: the Hittite Empire, Egypt, and Mycenae. What caused the catastrophe? The answer may be hidden in a desperate letter sent by the king of Ugarit, Hammurapi, to the ruler of Al-Ashia, modern-day Cyprus. The message seems to be written in the throes of death. Enemy ships are already here. They have burned my cities and devastated the land. Who were these mysterious sea invaders? And were they really responsible for the downfall of all of Cyprus?
Епохи.
Archaeologists studying the fall of Ugarit decided to look further. Could this city have been the only victim? They turned to other civilizations of the eastern Mediterranean, hoping to find traces of similar disasters. And the key to the mystery was found in Egypt. During the Bronze Age, Egypt was a true superpower. It controlled the rich gold mines of Nubia and the fertile lands along the Nile, which gave the pharaohs the opportunity for unification. The Egyptians conducted military campaigns and meticulously documented them on the walls of temples. But on the bas-reliefs in Medinet Habu, the temple complex of Pharaoh Ramesses III, a disturbing scene is depicted, an attack by unknown invaders from the sea. This event took place between 1187 and 1174 BC during the height of the Bronze Age collapse. Ancient artists depicted different warriors. Some wore feathered helmets, others had horned or round headdresses. Scholars have identified 9 ethnic groups involved in these invasions. Among them was the group called Peleset, which most researchers identify with the Philistines known from the Old Testament. But could these diverse tribes unite into a powerful military force capable of toppling the great civilizations of the Bronze Age? Some researchers doubt that the Sea Peoples could have systematically destroyed such powerful states. They didn't have a unified command center or a strategic headquarters to coordinate their attacks. Their invasions resembled a series of raids rather than a planned military campaign. Claude Schaefer, the leading researcher of Ugarit, was also not sure that the city was destroyed by sea raiders. He began to look for alternative explanations. In search of answers, he turned to the works of Arthur Evans, the famous archaeologist who discovered Knossos on Crete. Evans studied the demise of the Minoan civilization and concluded that it was destroyed not by wars but by natural disasters, primarily earthquakes. He was the first to systematically document layers of destruction, linking them to seismic disasters. Schaefer found this hypothesis convincing. Collapsed buildings, fires, and streets choked with rubble. All of this could have been caused by a powerful earthquake. Besides, the region is located in a seismically active zone. By carefully studying the stratigraphy, Schaefer discovered evidence of a series of earthquakes that occurred between 1225 and 1175 BC. And then he makes a sensational statement. The collapse of the Bronze Age could have been caused by a giant earthquake. Did Schaefer really find the main culprit responsible for the destruction of Ugarit and other great cities of the ancient world? However, the hypothesis of a series of earthquakes leading to the collapse of the Bronze Age faces a serious problem. Even after a devastating cataclysm, cities are usually rebuilt. People do not leave their homes unless absolutely necessary. In the 1960s, American scientist Rhys Carpenter proposed an alternative explanation. He put forward a revolutionary idea. The collapse of great civilizations was not caused by wars or earthquakes, but by a severe drought and the ensuing famine. For the first time in archaeological discussions, climate change began to be considered as a possible factor in historical catastrophes. However, at that time, there was no meteorological data to confirm a global drought in the eastern Mediterranean. Nevertheless, clay tablets from Ugarit contain undeniable evidence of a humanitarian crisis. Among them are letters from Hittite kings desperately pleading for help. "We are suffering from hunger. Please send us grain." The great Hittite Empire was experiencing serious food shortages and turned to Egypt and Ugarit for help. But after some time, Ugarit itself begins to ask for food. But if the reason for the exodus was drought, why did wealthy residents leave the city in a hurry, leaving behind their valuables? If it had been an orderly departure, they would have taken their treasures, but instead they hid gold and jewelry as if they hoped to return. Such a panicked flight points to an immediate threat. This doesn't look like a slow death from starvation. The city seems to have been attacked, but is there direct evidence that Ugarit really fell under enemy attack? Archaeologists are once again returning to the destruction layer of Ugarit. Among the collapsed buildings and traces of fires, they find crucial evidence, arrowheads scattered throughout the residential areas and streets. This points to fighting right within the city limits, to the final days of Ugarit. Ancient sources confirm that the people of Ugarit feared sea raids. So did their worst fears come true? Did the sea peoples really destroy Ugarit? Egyptian hieroglyphs in Medinet Habu tell about the battles of Pharaoh Rameses III with the Sea Peoples in 1177 to 1174 BC. If archaeologists could accurately date the destruction of Ugarit, it would help link the two events. The key to the mystery was found in the ruins of Gibala, a city from the 35th century BC. Radiocarbon analysis showed that Gibala was destroyed between 1190 and 1194 BC. This means that Ugarit could have fallen around the same time, about 10 to 15 years before the Sea Peoples attacked Egypt. Everything points to a chain of consecutive attacks. Armed sea raiders did not arrive overnight. They systematically plundered the cities of the eastern Mediterranean. But were the Sea Peoples the only reason for the collapse of the Bronze Age? Or was their appearance just one of the consequences of a larger crisis? Archaeologists continue to study the civilizations of the late Bronze Age, and the theory that the Sea Peoples played a decisive role in the collapse of the ancient world is becoming more and more likely. In the Mycenaean world, traces of destruction have been found in major palaces in Mycenae and Tiryns. Huge fires engulfed the buildings, but who was behind this remains a mystery. Nevertheless, the fact remains. Civilizations were collapsing, and along with them, writing was disappearing. In Mycenae, writing was used primarily for bureaucratic purposes. For keeping track of taxes, goods and payments, the Hittite Empire had a similar system. When the state structures collapsed, the need for writing disappeared, and it simply ceased to exist. It's unknown whether the Sea Peoples destroyed Mycenae, but the timing of the events coincides with the general collapse of the Bronze Age. One thing is clear, the scale of the attacks was catastrophic. Most coastal cities were destroyed. From Pylos in Greece to Gaza were burned and abandoned. What could have caused such a chain reaction? Late Bronze Age societies were strictly hierarchical. They largely relied on the exploitation of the lower classes. Life was hard for most people. Several years of poor harvests could lead to famine, ruin, and an inability to pay taxes. Social crisis led to vagrancy, banditry, and piracy. It is quite possible that the Sea Peoples emerged as scattered groups of destitute migrants, forced to raid and seize new lands in order to survive. This theory is supported by the study of the reliefs at Medinet Habu. Ancient Egyptian depictions show not only warriors, but also women, children, and wagons. This is not just a military campaign, it's a mass migration of peoples. If we look at the situation in the Mediterranean as a whole, a chain reaction of events becomes obvious. First, Darius's invasion of the Balkans caused upheaval in Greece. The destruction of cities and the flight of the population triggered an invasion of Asia Minor. From there, waves of refugees moved to Cyprus and the Levant. And eventually the sea raiders attacked coastal cities trying to find a new home. Thus, the collapse of the Bronze Age could have been caused by a wave of invasions and turmoil. But is there irrefutable evidence for this hypothesis? Or is there an even more complex chain of causes behind the catastrophe? Recent studies confirm the Sea Peoples played a key role in the collapse of the late Bronze Age. Archaeogeneticist Philip Stockhammer studied the DNA of remains from the ancient port city of Ashkelon in what is now Israel. This city was inhabited by the Philistines, who have long been associated with the Sea Peoples. Analysis of the remains of 4 children buried after 1200 BCE showed that the Philistines did indeed migrate to Lebanon. This is confirmed by written sources about mass migrations in the eastern Mediterranean at the end of the Bronze Age. But what could have made them leave their homeland? Paleoclimatologists studied sediment layers on the sea floor off the coast of the eastern Mediterranean. The results are astounding. The sea temperature dropped by 24 degrees. The amount of precipitation dropped sharply. A drought has set in. Crop failures led to famine. What Rhys Carpenter suggested back in 1965 is now confirmed by scientific data. Drought became one of the key reasons for the collapse, not only of the Mycenaeans of Greece, but also of other cultures in the region. The conditions were catastrophic. They knew that there were wealthy cities on the Levantine coast, and they headed there to find food. Imagine you live on a Greek island. Your fields have dried up, there's no food. You have three options left. The first one, watch your family die of starvation. The second one, resort to violence, fighting for the last resources. And the third one, get on the ships and try to find a new place to live. For the sea peoples, who possessed ships and military skills, the third option was the most logical. They were not just conquerors. They were refugees fighting for survival. Now it becomes clear why the attacks of the sea peoples spread across the entire eastern Mediterranean region. They were not a single people. Historians suggest that the sea peoples were made up of people from the Aegean region, Crete, and Egypt who were searching for new lands. They were not barbarians who destroyed civilizations just for the sake of destruction. These were destitute people who saw salvation in the opulent palaces of the Levant and Egypt. They plundered some cities, while in others they settled, creating new societies. And now we come to the point where it's tempting to accuse the sea peoples of barbarism. But didn't colonizers in modern history do the same thing? And they definitely weren't fleeing from hunger. So, what do we have as a result of our investigation? The collapse of the Bronze Age was a perfect storm. Earthquakes really did happen. Hunger swept through entire regions. And the sea peoples took advantage of the weakening civilizations. The great powers, the Hittites, the Egyptians, the Mycenaeans, collapsed. In the chaos that followed, the era of the Dark Ages began. Cities were abandoned, writing disappeared, empires fell, leaving a power vacuum. But on the ruins of the old world, new kingdoms and city-states emerged, which were revived centuries later. The sea peoples changed the course of history. Their true origin remains a mystery to this day, but their role in the end of the Bronze Age is undeniable. Well, that's all from me. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.